Hello, everyone. You talk about we're here. Talk about cover letters, and what exactly is a cover letter, and the best way of how to explain a cover letter. Exactly about why is it that we would write a cover letter, especially if we're going to be applying for a job. And let's just say that maybe if it's something related to maybe taxes or maybe taking care of any something like credit cards or anything like that. And I want to know too is to where about most cover letters that they are basically written about just to if you want to kind of cause this tour, just to kind of give somebody a short summary about a summary explaining about your interest in about maybe the career path that you're working for, and one of those could also maybe be about is to where okay, if you have your resume and like the schedule time, an appointment, just to be able to talk and or if anything, just to find out a little bit more about like any other source of information such as previous employment and as well as the skills and opportunities, other things that that somebody will be asking for. And so let's just say right here that I have right here, if we could all see this right here, is example right here of like a kind of like a cover letter right here. But talk about it for like a skill though. And if uh if we're gonna be applying for a job that the first thing that you might say on this job application it would be is to word that if you're good with working with computers. I really would not even suggest to start the sentence out with something like that. If anything, if you're going to be applying for a job that you would maybe select from the categories, such as to where if it's maybe coding or something like that, or if it's about customer service printer representative, like executive or somebody like that. And so you're likely one or two that whenever you're going to be writing a cover letter, exactly though that if that's really explaining your interest about whenever you see an ad posted up on the signs or maybe in the paper or somewhere like that, and that's just a way of how you show these employers that you're interested in that job. And so like I say too that they have right here, I'll go and show everybody right here of this right here, just like a kind of like a summary right here, but just talks about the explaining about for graphic design. And so let's just say though that with most cover letters though that it's going to you'll include something like in about 4 or 5 sentences about why you're interested in that job and as well as what you're good at and maybe about so far as your work results. And let's just say if one of those work results is maybe going to be about how you correspond by email and texting and all that stuff. And so yeah, that if you're going to be looking around for any source of employment, and let's just say that maybe if it's at meetings or something like that, for like a business, but you want to choose to where that whenever you first start a cover letter, whenever you first start writing a cover letter, that you're gonna maybe say is to where that should you start the sentence out by saying is to where yeah I'm available immediately, or that I'm actually interested in starting within a couple of days or something like that. Or you can maybe say that the reason to why I'm interested in this job is just because that I got something that's really impressive or something like that. So a lot of times though that whenever you're going to be writing a resume about for a job position, that you want to maybe start out the topic so far as that you have something that's going to impress the company or something like that. And so there's different ways of how you want to show interest about jobs though, but a lot of times it sure seems that way to where you don't really have a cover letter ready whenever you're getting ready to apply for a job. And a lot of times it sure seems that way to where, okay, yeah, your resume, but then, anything else that you would maybe have ready and maybe that with this cover letter that it will ask you to go ahead and maybe write about maybe 12 or maybe 120 characters long. So something such as, okay, well, how did you find this job? Or they're going to maybe ask you to explain about is to where that yeah how you found the job in the first place, and also about is to about the job though that tell you yeah it's a full time job, it's for a full time job, and if you could explain about why you're still interested in and in knowing about yeah and which I know for sure that a lot of jobs nowadays that they're going to be saying talking about contracts. And So if you're going to be hired for a job, and let's just say if it's web development or something like that, and I'll go and show everybody here this right here about that. This right here was supposed to be example right here of like kind of like a ad or a cover letter, but still that most of the time though that like if it's like any sorts of contract though that it's like contract promise to whenever you're going to be applying for a job, that sure seems that way to where a lot of the process is going to be quite different whenever you go from like step one and two and it goes to three and four. And three and four is maybe going to be including the orientation. And we all know too that whenever you do apply for a job, that the hiring team is going to be talking to you about the orientation, and that the whole process is maybe just going to work just a little bit different. And what I mean by different, though, that yeah, the orientation is just going to be a little bit different, just because the company is going to be talking to you about what they do there at the company, and maybe just a little bit about that, working with our clients and introducing about the equipment and that they use, and as well as other things that's going on there at the company. And so you'll likely want to that whenever you write a cover letter, a best way of how you can maybe explain it though, whenever you do write a cover letter, is another way of how you want to say is to where that by your own words of speak, is to where whenever you see a job, see something that's interesting to you that you just want to explain in about two sentences about why you're interested and why they should pick you as this person you to be nominated for that job, for that position. And so I included right here on this letter right here, you have right here for in class today, but we'll talk about for graphic design, that's, that goes by the question to where the on what is and how the subject is understood, and learning about the skill and the management of the words of speech. So like I wanted to that this right here is just like a little document that I wrote right here, but let's just say that maybe if it is like we say, to where besides the electronic signature, though, as to where a lot of these jobs that you apply for nowadays, that there's going to be what you call that, yeah, that there are some companies that are going to more likely say too that to where that they'll ask you to create an account through a website. I'm like, yeah, through the job, through the career services, through the career center. Whenever you go to like step three, that it's maybe going to be the process to where that they'll ask you to go to that website, just to be able to complete the application, to where whenever you're hired, and then they're going to ask you to maybe go through maybe 2 or 3 weeks of training, and maybe like the orientation and all that. So yeah, but still, whenever you write a cover letter, though, it sure seems that way to where if you want to go ahead and include like what you call a sentence verb though, and let's just say that with the sentence, so it can maybe include like what you call the words like because, or reasons why, or that something to where that you talk to the company about. And whenever you see an ad, a job position available in the paper or anywhere like that, and want to know too that the first thing that's really going to come to your mind, really though, is to where that yeah, I am confident in learning new things, and do you want to go ahead and include that in a cover letter, such as are you pretty confident in working with the materials that the company uses? Are you confident? And so that's maybe going to probably be the first word that I'm going to say, is to where about your confidence, about how well that you're willing to work on the process if you're hired. And let's just say that if there's going to be what's called busy times on the job, during the weekly basis, whenever you're going to be hired for a job, about how well that you're able to handle the work, and then how confident that you are in learning new things. So if you're really new to the whole learning process about whenever you're going to be applying for a job, that like I say too, about how confident you are in learning new things, and how well that you're able to overcome to where what you learned, and how you're able to manage all that goes on with that job. And so let's just say that yeah, that first of all, that are you going to say on that cover letter to where that if I'm hired, then I'm only going to be working this job for about maybe 5 weeks at the most. So let's just say that if you do apply for a job, and let's just say if it's for freelancer work, and somebody's going to maybe say to you that, yeah, it's a freelancer job, and it's only going to be going on for about maybe 4 weeks. And whenever you start working a job, and then let's just say that if you get an email or a text message from your the manager, and they're going to say too that yeah, that well, we need to keep you longer because something came up, and so yeah. So sometimes though that there are some jobs that might say something like that, to where that whenever you get hired for a job, that the first thing is first is to where that you just want to say is to where you have to see how everything goes. You're not really planning intending to be working for the company for for any longer than 6 months to a year. And let's just say that if you are hired for a job, if you're hired for a job, that some managers and some of those employers are going to be telling you that if you're willing to stay with the company for at least a year to maybe 2 or 3 years. So a lot of times it sure seems that way, to where that's going to be the next question, is to where if you're going to be asked to come in for an interview for a job, that somebody's going to be asking about that, to where that if you're hired to how long are you gonna be, tending to be, planning to stay employed for this company? And, so, like I say, is to where that, somebody asks a question like that, and you're likely one too that, that they're gonna be asking to where the how long are you gonna be, confident in working, for this position for? And, so a lot of times they'll tell you the details about that, and maybe even the job training. So it sure seems that way, toward it. It only takes you about maybe 15 or maybe 20 minutes to fill out a cover letter. Yeah, but still, that everything about the details about whenever you go in there for an interview, they tell you about anything else that's required, and maybe a special license that you have to have, and maybe if it's additional training that you have to have before that you're hired for the job. And so that's why that people might say too is toward that they probably get about quite a few dozen applications maybe per week, and want to know that they only hire about maybe 4 or 5 people at a time or something like that for the job. And so that's why it sure seems that way, toward that whenever you're going to be applying for a job, that the first thing that you want to mention, of course, is about good confidence about how you're able to handle a lot of the hard work. And I just really think too that, especially on the cover letter, then I think that you should, we should get in the habit of including about how confident that we are with handling a job, especially if it's going to be hard work. How confident you are in handling a lot of the hard work that they're going to be, that this job is going to be doing. And let's just say that between answering the phone calls, and then maybe, yeah, that if it's writing a documentation, or maybe anything else that's done there at the office, and let's just say if it's a print shop, or anything else that's maybe really, I'm like, yeah, sales representative. So car lots. So it's like any job that you're going to be applying for, though, it sure seems that way, toward that not all job ads, of course, are going to be explained in detail about, to where, oh, okay, all the details about the job. And then whenever you actually are there and you realize about what all that's been going on, and at the time you were too, is to where that, yeah, whenever you apply for a job, yeah, whenever you apply for a job, it sure seems that way, to where that you may think just a little bit like a crossword puzzle, to where that it should only take you maybe a few minutes, just to be able to spend time on it, just to be able to connect the dots, whichever however you want to describe it as. But still, whenever you do apply for a job, it sure seems that way, to where whenever you apply for a job, that it's like say is to where that yeah, that you realize how hard it is, maybe by the time whenever you're hired, or if anything, that if you go there and take a detour of the business. And why know too that whenever you actually go through the whole job details, and why know too is to where that you kind of ask that question, to where really, how do you know whenever you're a good fit for the job? And So, you might ask that question too, to where about the employees, to where how do you know whenever you are a real good fit for that job? And I keep thinking too, it's all about maybe the fact about really though, if your resume was chosen, and 102 is to where that yeah, that really though that how are you going to be able to get answers about is to where that you really, if you're really a good fit for the job, and let's just say that anything on your cover letter or your resume that approaches the company, especially, and let's just say though that that one of those approaches is maybe going to be about is toward a yeah that a company found your resume on one of the websites, on one of the career center's websites. So let's just say that yeah, it's a document, it's an electronic document, kind of like this right here, that they were able to find on one of those career centers websites, and then they want to follow up about the details about hey, that are you pretty confident in working with medical in the medical industry, or maybe at the automotive, so working in a machine manufacturer factory or packaging company or something like that. So like I say too that the things that you want to be a little bit energetic about is to where whenever you're going to be writing a cover letter, and a lot of times that you want to maybe start out the sentence to where that whenever you write a cover letter and maybe say is to where something looks exciting whenever you apply for a job, that you're likely thinking too that yeah, I'm familiar with that and I think I can do it. But really though that I don't really think that you want to start out a sentence on the cover letter saying that you think that you can handle it. Really, between positive and negative attitudes, so about how confident you are in handling a lot of the hard work. And let's just say that whenever you are hired for a job, though, that it sure seems that way to where that you want to really think about like a positive attitude about is to where how well that you're willing to handle that job. And you by say is to where that yeah, you are pretty confident, and then even whenever you are hired for a job, that the next thing goes by is just to where that yeah, that whenever you are hired for a job, they might say too that you might think assume to where okay, the orientation is only going to last for maybe for a couple of hours, but still orientations, as we all know, some of them could last up to 5 to 6 hours. Now, maybe the whole morning, maybe the whole afternoon, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. So, like, in case of anybody that may want to work whenever you're going to be applying for a job, that on average, though, is or say you go by a schedule to where a training schedule to where whenever you apply for a job, though, that is it really normal to where that the company is going to be telling you that we're going to go ahead and put you down. We're going to go ahead and put this person, this candidate, down on the schedule to where 1 week to where that they come to the orientation and then they go ahead and come to this meeting. And so yeah, so whenever you do apply for a job, that a lot of the process is going to just work just a little bit differently because it goes to step two. And like step one, I guess a lot of times step one is usually about okay, whenever you apply for a job, okay, did you get the job? Were you hired? Did you hear back from the company? And so I say, in case of anybody that may ask me, that yeah, it's happened quite often to where whenever you apply for a job and you don't hear back from them, it's like okay, go ahead and apply to another for another position, but still, you include that cover letter. And with that on that cover letter, that you're not going to say to where, okay, yeah, I'm applying to work for this company, or yeah, I'm applying to work for a representative's position or something like that, or where I'm applying to work for Amazon or maybe for a J.C. Penney's a retail store or somewhere like that. Really though, that whenever you write a cover letter, that really though that should you really be mentioning about every time about a job that you're going to be applying for, or should you really start out the sentences to where that how confident you are in handling a lot of the work they do that the company does there at the company, for the position? And I really just think that most cover letters should start out with by saying is to we're introduced by the name, and then as well as how confident you how confident you are about handling the job, and goes by saying is to where that yeah, that how good that you are with handling all what they do there, and anything that you might assume that they're going to maybe ask you to, and just say that yeah, I'm pretty confident in handling a lot of the hard work, and I'm good at working with other people and training other clients, and I've got my training in, I've gone through a lot of training, for the training process and all that stuff. So yeah, if you want to maybe talk a little bit about your training, but still, a lot of cover letters, like they usually say too, that a lot of cover letters could only be about maybe 5 sentences long, but still, the first question that more likely they're going to ask you, of course, besides is to where that, yeah, it's for a full time job, though, that maybe 3 weeks of training, though, is that whenever you're going to be hired for a job, though, that as we all know, that I'm sure we all probably already know that, to where that it's going to be just quite a bit different, compared to the application, because, for the application, whenever you do apply for a job, that then yeah, that it may only be about maybe 15, 20 minutes or so just to complete that application. But then whenever you actually go there to that location for the job, then it's possible that they're going to say is toward it that somebody's orientation, including the orientation in the meeting, that some of them that could last for up to a couple of hours. So that is why that sure seems that way, to where whenever you try to get settled for a job, and whenever you know that you have a job, and want to know to where whenever you get hired for a job, that like I say too, is to where that yeah, about your confidence, about how confident that you are, for this position, and also is to where they're thinking about the future too. But I'll go ahead and read everybody here about the what this letter says right here. But it says right here that for what I think about what a graphic designer means is to where other than lots, it means for a talent that you could put a lot of work into, a lot of skills that is developed, and that the person of knowledge, it if it is a skill that only it takes a few hours to learn, a lot of the knowledge of the kind of gift that pays for the future. So exactly what does that mean right there? Well, what I mean mainly by is to where a lot of the work that I do from what a company finds based on what I do. And so whenever I was writing this, it was like, really not everybody's really gonna know who I am. And say that, so whenever you're gonna be applying for a job though, it sure seems that way, to where that, there's gonna be requirements about this job. But maybe somebody's gonna maybe say is to where they found something maybe on a portfolio that came across their attention, and then they're gonna be asking you more about that. And so that's why that you want, whenever you wanted to, where that yeah, whenever you apply for a job, that you were actually applying to maybe do some of the marketing stuff there. But then let's just say that yeah, well, that job's been closed, so we'll ask you to go ahead and apply for this other position that we have opened. And so a lot of times it sure seems that way, to where that yeah, whenever I guess you say that really don't get discouraged if a job has been filled, and anybody can maybe say too that yeah, whenever a job's closed, and then a lot of times, okay, well, do they still have your application, or do they still have your cover letter? And so it sure seems that way, to where that it's a lot more time just to go through the whole just to go through all that process of being able to write another cover letter, and just to be able to apply for another job. But you have right here, talk about right here, graphic designing, that goes by the question to where what it is, and how the subject is understood, learning the skill of managing the words of speech, even if there is very little work with, and for any ideas that a student or faculty come up with, and how it's collected and managed, and for any good reason for the thinking about one design that shows the meaning for the careers. So a lot of times it sure seems that way, to where that yeah, whenever you first start applying for a job, that really though, that everything for what you do, it's possible that you could maybe have many more other skills besides what you're applying for. And let's just say that yeah, whenever you apply for a job, that whenever you first apply for a job, that you says is toward that really though, that I was actually applying to be an office tenant or something like that. And let's just say that whenever you first apply for a job, that they ask you about the skills that you're good at or something like that. But let's just say, yeah, if you click on a link from an email, and let's just say that that you're applying for a job, but maybe for as a representative, or maybe that they worked at the front desk or something like that. And so let's just say that, yeah, if you're redirected to another application that talks about another position that's available, but a lot of times it sure seems that way to where that whenever you actually go to the website, and it seems like that to where that yeah, that you put an application in, and then they get back to you 3 days later, and they'll tell you that well, yeah, that we have other positions available, but still, that unfortunately, I'm afraid that that job's closed. So it sure seems that way to where that even just because a job is closed, does that don't mean that nearly 100% of the time that you cannot apply for other positions there at the company. So it sure seems that way to where the first thing is first. Whenever you first get started with something, that sure seems that way to where that really does a cover letter and a resume really expire? And I guess if you want to, yeah, that's like the next question to where does everything that you do, does that really all expire? And let's just say if it's been about maybe 10 days since you heard from the company in 102, that really the all the time that you put into applying for a job, that you have the time really expires. But still, it just really, the whole important reason about applying for a job, as we all know, is to where that whenever you're applying for a position, that you're just really trying to get your work, out there to where the other job, career fields, that hiring teams. And I'll go and read the rest of this right here for class, but still, that as a subject study has always been a favorite. It seems that the only, to that only happens, important skills that the ID touch to other students for what they do. That being a designer, it is required to be a knowledge of the time and the work of they put into the design, and the work are not just copied, but they are also the person who is willing to develop the passion. So let's just say though that whenever you first apply for a job, though, it sure seems that way to where that yeah, graphic design, or if it's web development or something like that, or maybe if it is maybe digital performance, if it's using digital copying, or if it's anything maybe copying and printing, kind of applying for the copying and applying for the printing job. And let's just say if I were to be applying for the printing job, and maybe somebody's going to maybe ask about how confident are you in maybe working in maybe in the customer service area, or maybe doing the mobile app manager or something like that, multimedia manager, and as well as a Photoshop executive or something like that. And so it sure seems that way to where that whenever you apply for a job, that you might just be looking out for just one position that you see you advertise, that really though that whenever you're applying for a job, are you really open for maybe 20 other open positions there around the area, or if you're just applying for one position? But still, that when I'm talking about on this forum here, is actually talk about for graphic design. And so I know that anybody who's going to be applying for a job, though, that I guess, are you really going to explain about the skill, though, is to where that whenever you first were introduced to this position, though, that the only thing that you really know how to do about is that yeah, that I know a lot about Office 365. I know a lot about Excel files and working with the documentation and all that. But still, though, yeah, that if you want to go ahead and maybe talk a little bit more about that, to where that whenever you're going to be yeah, graphic design. So it sure seems that way to where that the only thing that you're going to maybe say is say, yeah, I'm good at advertising, and that's it. There ain't nothing else. And if you want to go ahead and start by expressing yourself that way, and like we wanted to where yeah, there ain't nothing else right now at the moment. Am I hired or not? And people, companies are gonna maybe say that to where that really though, if you're applying for a full time position, are you really trying to exaggerate a lot of Yeah, I use talent by the way, but still, really, whenever you apply for a job, that do you really want to talk too much about talent, too much, or maybe about work experience? And I know a lot of these jobs, I know for sure are going to maybe be asking a little bit about talent, but are they really going to be asking about work experience? And one of those work experiences could also maybe be about as to where, yeah, if you used to work for maybe a magazine company, or maybe if you were a maintenance person, you were in charge, you were a janitor working somewhere, or maybe that if you were in charge of like the housekeeping, if you were maybe working at a motel bill, if you were working at a hotel for a couple months, or maybe working at the restaurant for a couple months or something like that. And 102 is to where that whenever you do apply for a job, that everything that you do, is there one skill or if there's many more other skills. And one of those many more other skills is like to where the how good are you with maybe working with other people, working with people in the community. And I know for sure that there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to be asking you about that, about how good that you are interacting with other people. And let's just say that if you write a cover letter like this right here, and it says something such as to where it's going to get everybody's attention, and maybe if you're going to maybe be talking about is to where that which called good confidence. Talk about for like anything that's related to maybe a contract or something like that, maybe like a statement or something like that. Besides the elections, let's just say that if the statement is maybe going to be about job shattering, about training, and introducing to the new technology or something like that. And I know one thing that I would probably mention too is about the mobile app, because in case of anybody that may say is to where if you get like on conference call with one of these clients and 102s, to where whenever you're hired for a job and somebody's gonna maybe say that, turn the camera on so I can see you. Yeah, turn the camera on so I can see you. And at 102 is that, yeah, that you know anything that's going to be required whenever you get a job, and let's just say if you're going to be talking to somebody, maybe on the portable app or somewhere like that, maybe even on WebEx if you're going to be talking to somebody. And 102 is to where if you're going to be maybe talking to your boss, on the phone, and they're going to say, turn your camera on so I can see you. And I will let yeah, if I can go ahead and if you can share that document with, so yeah, that a lot of things that somebody's going to ask you to do on the phone, and want to know one of those objectives is maybe going to be about is to where to please turn the camera on so I can see you. And so really though, whenever you write a cover letter though, are you going to include a profile picture right there on left or the right? I guess that's going to maybe be the next question, to where that really though, that how many companies are really going to be paying attention about profile pictures. And well, no, yeah, you got space right here on the right here. You can include a profile image and maybe some more skills that you're good at, and maybe good references or something like that. But anyway, but whenever you're going to be applying for a job, it sure seems that way, to where even if it's maybe working in a dental lab or something like that, then want to know just a little bit too, to maybe working for a car lot or something like that. Then want to know too is that yeah, that whenever you go to a meeting or something like, whenever you're talking to a few clients, and want to know just a little bit too that writing a cover letter. Do you really want to start the cover letter by saying is to where, hi, my name is, Samantha, or Marty or something like that. And, yeah, that, I saw your job ad in the paper. I'm just want to know some more details about it. Or do you want to go and kind of like start with like an active positive attitude, such as, I have great confidence in learning new things, and also that I have something also to impress the company by, and one of those impressive companies say that is to where that yeah, that something that I've been working on my portfolio that I, actually would think that would look good for the website or something like that. So to talk about stuff, typical stuff about about the future, but then also about something that that the company is going to be familiar with, and maybe something that the company is going to be talking about. And let's just say that if one of those things is maybe going to be about is that yeah, that there's maybe going to be job like yeah, whenever you're going to be hired for a job though, it sure seems that way. It's new technologies, yeah, new technology, or it could also maybe be about is to where promotions. So let's just say if you were to be writing a cover letter and somebody's going to maybe ask you on that cover letter to where if you are going to be promoted, maybe within the next couple of days from now, exactly about is to where that with how much confidence that you think that you'll be able to handle that, and as well as anything else that maybe the company should know about whenever on top of the hiring day is that if there's any source of promotions or maybe source of any source of awards or anything like that that the company would need to know about. So it sure seems that way to where whenever you write a cover letter, that should give the employer reasons to why that they want to hire you, right? But still, at that same time, it sure seems that way to where that if you just want to write maybe two or three sentence, cover letter and just say is to where that yeah, I saw the job ad on the website and that's really all I got to say, or something like that. But still, whenever you talk to people, sometimes it sure seems that way to where, well, that's not my department. I don't have anything to tell you. Go ahead and call them just to see if the job's still open. But still, so yeah, I'm sure we've all had our experience with cover letters, but still, one of those experiences maybe going to be about talking about good confidence as well as talking about your skills, and so that is why that they have right here for graphic design right here. I want to talk about right here as to where that yeah, graphic designing is not just about the paint, and it's not just about what you call these lipstick prints or whichever you want to call it. It's also about understanding about computer software. Yeah, I'll tell everybody on that cover letter that the main important topic that I want to talk about good programs, computer software and programs and mobile apps that I'm familiar with that I know that can make a difference for the position. So whenever I apply for a job, that I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about is to where good confidence that most of the skills that I do know of is using some of these software programs. And, yeah, that with those programs, in case of anybody that may ask me, though, is like with these programs, though, that it's not just going to, I say, yeah, whenever with these software programs, it's not like it's to where like a little makeup kit to where the okay, yeah, well, anybody can do that. Really, that's nothing really impressive, but still, computer software, as we know, that in case of anybody may say too, to where that some they have to have a license, just to have them installed on their system. But really, though, that whenever you're going to be using some of these programs, though these software programs, though, that are you really going to be thinking too much about a lot of it, about how confident you are about navigating through the menus and using the tools and settings and all that? Or are you just going to look at that as to where, like, yeah, yeah, well, I'm trying to think here, though, is that, whenever I'm going to be looking through that medicine cabinet in 102 is to where I see all the stuff that I never heard of, and want to know just a little bit too, to where okay, I don't have time to mess with it, but still, or are you going to go ahead and just open up the program and just kind of learn a little bit more of the basics about how the tools work and then knowing about what the results are? So yeah, whenever you apply for a job, that you are actually shown results, and that's basically just like in two or three sentences as to where you're telling them about what you're able to come up with whenever you actually perform a certain topic. And let's just say that if it is made in the photography, or it could also maybe be about is to where like a documentation or maybe an Excel file or something like that, to where whenever you run tests and so yeah, whenever you get test results about something, and maybe that's something that you would maybe like to include on the cover letter, stating to where what you found, and anything that comes to the managers, the team's attention. And one thing that you can maybe mention also is remote control. Yeah, I have I can actually help guide you on online, if you can just if we can connect you on meeting at some time. So yeah, a lot of stuff that they have even online on a media that talk about as well too. But anyway, but talk about the for reasons for a cover letter, okay? But anyway, talk about for good confidence, But anyway, good luck everyone. Apply for a job, and yeah, they talk about for good reasons, good confidence. So far as writing a good cover letter, represent for the future, and also about how much confidence that you have about handling the job. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.